Hello, in these presentations, I will share a psychological concept we introduce called as TOPAS, a theory of the psychology of atrocities in societal context. A lot of things I want to share, but in this limited time, I will focus to mass violence and its denial in Southeast Asia, with cases from Cambodia, East Timor, Indonesia, and Myanmar, or known as Burma. Yes, there have been psychological process explaining why mass atrocities occur, why people become perpetrators, and why others targeted as victims. But we found that the process are so complicated and sensitive to societal contexts that are neglected by previous studies. It was then from this process of thinking that the idea for TOPAS emerged. So, what is TOPAS actually about? I don't know whether you have known about this. In Southeast Asia, other than what happened to Rohingyas in Myanmar, there were three cases of atrocities that have killed hundreds of thousands to millions of civilians that happened in Cambodia, East Timor, and Indonesia.
It has been known that genocide and mass atrocities are human-made and there is a process prior of the acts. How the victims are demonized and targeted are as the consequence of social constructions on who is labeled as evil group. For instance, mass violence in Indonesia, East Timor, and Cambodia have one in common of communism issues. Indonesia and East Timor were driven by anti-communism reactions, whereas massacre and torture in Cambodia were as an intention to build communism's ideology, that is a peasant society, by abolishing communist enemies. In Myanmar, the trigger was to banish one specific religious ethnic, Rohingya Muslims, as they are believed as a threat to the Myanmar Buddhist nations or also labeled as traitors. But I will try to discuss further about this. I will start with massacre in Indonesia. So, massacre in Indonesia to what accused communist affiliate triggered after a so-called failed coup attempt on 30 September 65. It was likely a starting point of mass killing related to the pro and con of communism in Southeast Asia, in which Indonesia stood against communism. To the effect of 65 movement, accused to be carried out by Indonesian Communist Party, or we call it here Partai Komunis Indonesia or PKI. Those who are accused to affiliate with PKI were deemed as traitors, and up until today, communism is considered to be incompatible with Indonesian values. Move to genocide in Cambodia, it happened during Khmer Rouge rule, also called as Democratic Kampuchea. They ruled from 75 to 79. Pol Pot was the main leader of Khmer Rouge, and I don't know how to start it, but under Pol Pot as the leader, Khmer Rouge took a victory of 70 to 75 war with the previous regime. Pol Pot then renamed Cambodia into Democratic Kampuchea. Inspired by communist ideology and Chinese revolutions, the mission of the Khmer Rouge regime was to turn Cambodia into a peasant society. How it was implemented is so much influenced by Pol Pot's utopic visions of what he thought as a complete communist society. And in making a complete communist society, people who were considered as impure and might contaminate the revolutions were subject of demolitions. And it was estimated that during Khmer Rouge era, about 1 million to 2 million people died. Almost in the similar year with Cambodia, the mass killing in East Timor started at the end of 1975. the day when Indonesian military landed in East Timor. Fretilin, Revolutionary Front for an Independence in East Timor, declared an independence a month before Indonesia occupied East Timor. But Fretilin was accused of promoting communism's ideology, and in order to fight against communism, Indonesian military, in collaboration with Timorese militias trained by Indonesian military, launched the occupations. East Timor then was claimed as the last province in Indonesia, and based on reports from Ben Kiernan, only in the time span from 75 to 1980, more than 20% of East Timorese population were killed. Let's move to Myanmar. In some reports, the incident called as Rohingya genocide referred to series of violence started in 2017, where Tatmadaw, predominantly Burmese ethnic military, carried out its special operations in Rakhine State, called as clearance operations, claiming to tackle Muslim insurgents. In this series of incidents, thousands of civilians died and triggered mass displacement, with more or less 1 million people fled to several places, especially to Bangladesh. General Min Aung Hlaing, who led the coup, is also accused as the mastermind of the clearance operations. But I think it is important to note that persecutions, exclusions, and violence toward Rohingya Muslims have emerged long before 2017 of clearance operations. Based on our analysis, its road to Rohingya genocide is paved in 1982, in which a citizenship law stripped Rohingya Muslims of their citizenship for Myanmar, making them de jure stateless people. And it was something like a starting moment when Rohingya called as Bengalis or labeled as the other. When we discuss particularly about the victims, in most cases, most victims like mass violence and atrocities were demonized and humanized. And more often, demonization is a strong fuel to increase hate, and the impact can be destructive when the expression of hate is supported by the system. And it is indeed the case with Indonesia, East Timor, Cambodia, and Myanmar massacres. How victims were targeted are not random and not incidentally chosen, but because they were members or connected to a certain group. In Indonesia, communism is socially constructed as atheist, anti-religion, bloody killers, and national traitor. Amazingly, this label also attached to the descendants of accused communists that they were considered as potentially a threat, which may continue to spread communism in Indonesia. Similar views were planted on East Timor incidents. If you support East Timor independent or support Fretilin, you will be viewed as communist and anti-Indonesians or defectors. In Cambodia, the victims were shown as parasite, impure, or toxic. What is crazy about Cambodia genocide that the victims include almost everything of non-Khmer, such as ethnic Vietnam, religious group, Muslim, Christian, Buddhist, and other religious group, and also intellectual, Chinese Cambodians, and other minority ethnic groups. In Myanmar, Rohingya Muslims were viewed as illegal, barbares, insurgents, or a threat. So, this label led to the perceptions that the victims as disgusted and their values might undermine in-group sacred values. Let's move to discuss the perpetrators. Almost all of the accused perpetrators, like the leaders, the executioners, and group members connected to the perpetrators, deny the accusation of wrongdoings, or they will claim such acts as justified. Long story short, most of mass killings we share here, the military took part playing as a key role, where they were also assisted by armed civilians, either from national or religious wings, factions. Regarding denial arguments, many of executioners defended that they did not have other choice or just following order. In psychology, this is understood as diffusion responsibility strategy, hoping that they could avoid sanctions. But we found one case in East Timor that is interesting, in which it is hard to justify whether the executioner was guilty or not, at least based on our understanding. It looks to me that it could be considered as a victim when a civilian East Timorese was forced to harm other fellow East Timorese under a direct threat like the gun pointing at his head. And this happened in East Timor. Other than division of responsibility, specifically to the case of 65-66 massacre, there were executioners believe that such act of harm-doing is right. In this, they believed that their acts were for the sake of the nations and it was approved by the state and God. Of Cambodia genocide, in an interview with Pol Pot denied the accusation of genocide by re-asking, how would he kill his own people while he was struggling for the sake of Cambodian people? The interesting one is that the head of prison S21, Hang Ping, called also as Brother Lutz, admitted the misconduct and expressed the apology to the victims. But he also stated that he got an order that those who were put in the prison S21 must die. Suu Kyi's denial of Myanmar wrongdoing is also important to note. In order to play safe, Suu Kyi described what happened in Rakhine State as armed conflict, where all parties involved are the victim as well as the perpetrators, in which it relates to the case of inclusive victimhood and inclusive perpetratorhood. So here, Suu Kyi would like to convey that no side can be charged as the main perpetrators. To compile all, we found that the similarity in all cases are that most accused of perpetrator attempt to maintain their positive image, that they are a good person or in the right side, thus likely immune from any wrongdoing. So how is it now? And how the tragedies are remembered or commemorated? In Cambodia, as the current state has acknowledged Cambodian past tragedy, one of more than 100 of execution centers, known as Prison S21, in Phnom Penh, was transformed into a museum named as Tuol Sleng to commemorate the victims. Tuol Sleng Museum focused more to detail of how Khmer Rouge torture and execute the prisoners. Other than Tuol Sleng Museum, since 1983 on May 20, Cambodia commemorated the brutality of Khmer Rouge period. It was called as the Hate Day, but since 2001, it was renamed into National Day of Remembrance. Before 2001, in the Hate Day, survivors of genocide will come to schools, pagodas, or other places that held the event of celebrations to give testimonial and expressing a condemnation to Khmer Rouge. In Cambodia, many of perpetrators of genocide had been charged guilty, including the head of Prison S21. Pol Pot died under house arrest but never put on trial. In Indonesia, instead of remembering 100,000 to a million people die accused to affiliate with communism, what is commemorated in Indonesia is the brutal killing of Sikh general. A museum where most of the remains of the general found was built there. In Indonesia, the perpetrator and executioners of communists were praised and titled as local heroes up until today. If you are known as the descendant of PKI affiliate, life would not be easy for you. Okay, about East Timor, A huge number of Indonesians across generations have not realized that Indonesian military committed occupation would cause more than 20% of populations die. Most of Indonesians view Indonesia as a clean country which never carry out occupation in East Timor. They even blame former President Habibie for letting East Timor gaining its independence. In the schools, the descriptions about the occupations did not appear and was not discussed openly. But in East Timor, the history of their resistance to Indonesia now documented and commemorated in a museum, as well as creating a monument to remember Santa Cruz incident. But so far, Indonesia is something like immune with sanctions of past wrongdoing of communism's Burke and East Timor genocide. In terms of Myanmar, the current situation in Myanmar making Rohingya Muslims in limbo, in which most of us do not know what will happen to them during the military regime.
What we learned that through the cases of mass atrocities in Southeast Asia, we found that how different social groups characterized by diverse ideologies, ethnicities, genders, or religions exhibit varying vulnerabilities as perpetrators or victims based on their social and power status. What we found that mass atrocities are not sudden occurrences, but rather result from a series of complex processes and events. To understand the whole picture about mass atrocities, then we need to analyze it through macro, meso, and micro level.
This is what I can share. Terima kasih. Thank you. Kwan Junta Partal, Som Arkon, selamat.